Thank you so much, sir. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I know that you share my feeling of pride as I introduced our chief guest, General Anil Chauhan, Chief of Defense Staff of India. Having said that, I'm acutely aware that you are keen to listen to him and not to me. So without any further ado, may I now invite the General to the podium to enrich us with his remarks. Over to you, sir.
Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral Hari Kumar, former Chief of Naval Staff and Chairman, National Maritime Foundation, Admiral Karambir, former Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Lamba, who is in the audience, Director General of National Maritime Foundation, Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, eminent delegates, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished members from the academia, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by complimenting the Indian Navy and the National Maritime Foundation for organizing this Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue and curating it so well that all the sessions, all 6 of them, are relevant and contemporary. They have also invited a galaxy of eminent speakers from various think tanks and universities to share their valuable perspectives. I'm sanguine we'll all benefit from their insights. I propose to share some thoughts on the historical as well as contemporary salience of the Indo-Pacific, drawing upon India's vision and perspective for the region. The global attention currently is riveted to the ongoing conflict in Europe as well as the Middle East. These conflicts have caused major disruptions in the global supply chains related to energy, fuel, food, fertilizers. The worst affected are, of course, the global south, nations which currently lack the resilience and capacities to endure such a crisis. Any crisis or conflict in the Indo-Pacific has the potential to cause disruptions even on a larger scale than the ongoing conflicts. India, as the largest growing economy and dependent on oceans and the seas for trade, will be the maximum affected if such a conflict take place. Hence, Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue is not only important, but also relevant in today's context. India's vision for the Indo-Pacific flows from its historical connect with the region through trade and culture. You're all aware that Hinduism and Buddhism flowed to Southeast Asia in the 1st and 2nd centuries from India, mostly following the maritime routes. The Pallava, Chola, and the Srivijaya empires had close trade and cultural links with countries, including the ruling dynasties of the Indo-Pacific. You have all heard about the Indian mythological legend of Samudra Manthan by the Devas, the gods, and the Asuras, the demons, in Vishnu Puran, which is still a popular lore in Indonesia and Thailand. Indians worship Varuna, the lord of the seas. Oceans have played an important role in the mythology as well as history of India, and I'm sure that they will play an important role to shape our destiny in future. Geographically, if you look, India is both a continental as well as a maritime power. India's golden age, the Gupta period, is a testimony to India's combined continental and maritime history, character, and identity. Continentally, we are all connected by land, not only to Tibet, but also to Central Asia, to Afghanistan, Middle East, and onwards, you could say, theoretically, even to Eastern Europe. In fact, it was the same land corridor through which the doctrine of Buddha traveled along with the trade caravans along the Silk Route in between the 2nd and the 5th century. It spread Buddhism to Afghanistan, Central Asia, Mongolia, China, and Tibet, and later on to Korea and Japan. The peninsular shape of India, jutting out into the Indian Ocean, flanked by 2 island territories, makes us a strong maritime power. This is further strengthened by limited access to the Indian Ocean region by the states, few states, that is of Malacca, Lombok, Ombivatar, Sunda, Bable Mandap, and Mozambique. However, the current geopolitical disruptions and our border dispute with a couple of countries have constrained India's continental connectivity. And in a sense, we are now today almost like an island nation. In fact, to overcome these, India has enunciated Act East and Act West policies. We are trying to overcome the limitations of this geography or geopolitics by trying alternate routes of connectivity, one of which was just mentioned, that India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, International North-South Transport Corridor, the Kaladan Multimodal Project, the development of Charbahar Port in Iran, and some similar activities. On the other hand, oceans offer us the ability to connect to the world. Our economy, trade, expansion of culture and social ties depends on free and open seas. Hence, geographically also, India's destiny lies in the seas. The security of a nation cannot be defined in concept of either and or in a binary kind of a construct. We must view it holistically. Hence, while the traditional challenges remain in the continental domain, it's in the maritime domain that we'll have opportunities in future. Let me now talk about Indo-Pacific, which I believe is a geographical concept defining broad expanse of maritime and continental territory of the Pacific and Indian Ocean regions. Varying geographical interpretations of Indo-Pacific encompasses Eastern Africa and Asian nations, littorals bordering the two oceans, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, US, the Pacific Island countries. India's viewpoint of the Indo-Pacific is best exemplified in the words of a Prime Minister who in 2018 during the Shangri-La Dialogue had said, I quote, India does not see the Indo-Pacific region as a strategy or as a club of limited members. And by no means do we consider it as directed against any country. A geographical definition as such cannot be. India's vision for the Indo-Pacific region is therefore a positive one. It includes all nations in this geography and others beyond who have a stake into it. To this audience, I don't have to actually recapitulate the importance of the Indo-Pacific region. 44% of the global surface area and 66% of the population. That includes 58% of the youth and 62% of global GDP resides in the Indo-Pacific region. 50% of global trade and 40% of world's oil passes through these oceans. It's the world's busiest and most strategically significant maritime trade routes which facilitate the movement of goods, energy and resources and raw materials between Europe and Middle East, Africa and Asia. The strategic importance of this particular region can be gauged from the fact that it contains 7 of the 10 largest armed forces of the world and 6 resident nuclear powers. It's home to many hotspots such as the 38th parallel, the South China Sea, East China Sea disputes, Indo-Pak and Indo-China border disputes. The jostling between global powers in the Indo-Pacific has led to profound power shifts and rebalancing, prompting a reassessment of traditional alignments, forging of new alliances, and emergence of innovative partnerships. India's security interests are deeply enmeshed in what happens in the Indo-Pacific region. While we are conscious of the security challenges along our northern and western borders, we also have a stake in the security of international shipping lanes, as well as in maintaining free, open, inclusive, and rule-based Indo-Pacific. Most of us are aware that almost 95% of India's trade by volume and 65% by value is through the seas. 85% of energy needs are imported through the seas. In the last fiscal year, almost about 50% of oil and 68% of our natural gas came from offshore oil fields. India is the fifth largest producer of maritime capture fisheries and the fourth largest exporter of fish in the world. Therefore, our economy is inextricably linked to the oceans. India's vision for the Indo-Pacific was laid down by the Prime Minister in his speech at Shangri-La Dialogue, which I previously mentioned. It said that India envisages an open, free, inclusive, peaceful, and prosperous Indo-Pacific, built on a rule-based order and with sustainable and transparent infrastructure investments. It should have freedom of navigation and overflight, unimpeded lawful commerce, mutual respect for sovereignty, peaceful resolution of disputes, and equality amongst nations. Asian centrality and unity is an important element in this particular vision. Subsequently, in 2019, during the Asia Summit in Thailand, the 7 pillars of Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative were enunciated, which included maritime security, maritime ecology, maritime resources, capacity building and resource sharing, disaster risk reduction and management, science, technology, academic cooperation, trade connectivity, and maritime transport. Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative aims to promote practical cooperation by drawing on existing regional architecture like the ASEAN-led East Asian Summit Framework, Indian Ocean Rim Association, and BIMSTEC and Pacific Islands Forum. Even as we speak today, the Indian Defense Minister, Honorable Shri Rajnath Singh, is traveling to Jakarta to take part in ASEAN Defense Ministers' meet with a view to foster closer security cooperation amongst the countries of this region. India's Act East policy, Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, Forum for Indo-Pacific Islands, Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, establishment of IFC IOR, and deeper economic and defense cooperation have been shaping our engagement with the Indo-Pacific region. The Quadrilateral Security Review, QUAD in short, complements these initiatives. Now I'll talk about some of the initiatives which India has taken, which focuses on the oceans. The first is Sagar and Security and Growth for All in the region, known as Sagar. The Sagar vision builds upon the principles of cooperative measures for sustainable use of oceans. It has enabled enhanced maritime domain awareness, assistance in EEZ, surveillance, search and rescue, pollution control, and much more for the countries which are part of this particular region. Our Act East policy focuses on extended neighborhood in the Indo-Pacific with ASEAN as its core. It promotes economic cooperation, cultural ties, and development of strategic relationships through bilateral, regional, and multilateral engagements. To maintain the momentum of our economic growth, India has identified the blue economy as one of the 10 core dimensions of growth. It will contribute to food security, poverty alleviation, enhance trade and investment, and improve maritime connectivity. Swachh Sagar and Surakshit Sagar. The focus of developing the blue economy is concomitant with sustainable and climate-resistant exploitation of resources. This was exemplified during the Prime Minister's speech for the inaugural of the Global Maritime India Summit in 2023, in which he said that India is moving towards a future where the blue economy will be the medium to create a greener planet. Talking about the current IRPD 2023, while on one hand, there are myriad opportunities for a growth in the maritime domain, there also exist many challenges. Traditional security challenges as well as non-traditional threats such as maritime terrorism, piracy, drug trafficking, illegal human migration, and increasingly the rise of hybrid maritime threats are impediments that we must overcome if we are to harness the potential of the green economy. Climate change, impact mitigation, and adaptation is another important challenge which calls for ongoing dialogue to be urgently translated into collaborative action. It's obvious that no one country on its own can address these challenges because 60% of Earth's ocean areas are outside national jurisdictions. Nations must come together to find solution to these problems, most of which transcend national boundaries and maritime jurisdictions. I am pleased to note that the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue 2023 aims to encourage intellectual discourse on matters maritime with specific focus on geopolitical impacts upon maritime connectivity in the Indo-Pacific region. I also wish to highlight some issues which probably the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue will take on, because I feel that these are slightly important. The first is seabed mining. Seabed mining for rare earth minerals has wide-ranging applications in high technology. This area, which is on the cusp of commercial exploitation, can rapidly accelerate into a race for competition and possible contestation, especially in deep sea mining. This could in turn increase the complexity of universally accepted legislation for regulating the current heritage of oceanic resources, possibly leading to state-on-state conflicts. Undersea cables, similarly, pose immense legal challenges, even though they are indispensable for economic growth, including that of development of smart ports. Cyber, maritime domain, and space all have an overarching influence on development of ports and resilient maritime infrastructure by states, and will remain intensely contested domain due to the vested interests of non-state actors. These issues highlight the absolute criticality of maritime domain awareness accompanied by space-based technologies. In the context of ongoing and potential geopolitics and geoeconomic contestations, I think that the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue will play an important role in fostering a regional ideation of sorts on issues pertaining to maritime domain. Such dialogues help understand each other's perspectives. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of dialogue or samvad in weaving a fabric of regional cooperation. It's the first step towards cooperation. We in India truly believe in this power of samvad or dialogue. Perhaps we have inherited it from our ancestors, where the tradition of knowledge itself was imparted through a process of dialogue and discussions. I am sanguine that the eminent participants in this year's Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue will delve into intricacies of these challenging issues and shared concerns in the maritime domain, and through their collective sagacity, they would push the frontiers of our current understanding even further, while igniting most constructive debates to promote maritime trade and connectivity. Our earnest hope and wish, of course, is that distilled outcomes of the dialogue would form policy-relevant actions by all stakeholders. I wish you all an insightful and thought-provoking marathon of ideation as part of this conference. Thank you.